A lot of the first part of the movie is once Shaw is arrested, Josh has a hard time really believing that he's necessarily guilty. He wants to believe that he isn't. And he's sort of giving him the benefit of the doubt as much as possible. But as the reality of it sort of unfolds, we find out that Lester, who's this really good friend of Josh's, the doorman, has been, talking about retiring and wanting to get out, and has basically, we find out that he tries to commit suicide because he has invested all his money with Shaw. In addition to the pension fund that Josh invested, he finds out that Lester gave him his money, which is kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back for Josh, because he realizes that there's no way that he could have done that and not known what he was doing, and that Shaw must have been basically, using that money just to float over, knowing that he was already going to be indicted and in trouble. So that's when Josh goes up and bashes his car, and but that friendship with Lester and wanting to do it for Lester, and I think also just wanting to really absolve himself of all the guilt of having gotten everybody into the situation is what spurs him on and makes him make the choice. Josh grew up in Astoria, and you see in the beginning of the movie that he walks by this guy Slide almost every day, who's up to some nefarious illegal activities, and we're not quite sure what. It looks like he has stolen goods, and he sort of makes fun of Josh as he walks to work every day, and we don't realize what their history is. And then when it comes time to do this heist, and they need somebody who's a ringer, somebody who's an actual criminal, Josh has this idea to go to Slide, who we then learn was they grew up together on the block and actually were in daycare together as kids. And Slide doesn't really remember it, or chooses not to remember, so they sort of connect on that, and all of a sudden it's these guys who grew up in the neighborhood together, went different ways, but have this connection from the past. So it's a sort of a fun relationship in that they sort of squabble like kids a lot of the time. He's pretty iconic, Eddie, and for anybody who, for my generation growing up, he sort of it defines a lot of what comedy is in the the last 25 years. So it's pretty cool to work with him, and he's really funny. He's really smart. He's very he's a great improviser, and I don't know. I mean, he's Eddie Murphy. It's exciting to work with him. I every day that I work with him, I'm excited to be there, and I kind of feel like sometimes I feel like an audience because I have to watch him do his thing. I'm like, wow, that's good. That's going to be in the movie. And I think for the relationship in the film, these two guys, he really, he's just a guy that can get away with, I think, playing a guy who is on the edge and who is, you're not quite sure which way he's going to go. But again, he's such a likable personality, and he's a really great, just in terms of comedy, he's a great comedy audience. He loves comedy, so just hanging out with him on the set is great. We talk, and we have a lot. We're pretty close in age, so we have a lot of the same reference points in terms of TV shows we watched as kids and movies and stuff like that. So it's fun to talk and hang out with him. So there's the new elevator operator we meet in the beginning, Devereaux, that Michael Pena plays, who's brand new at the job and kind of sassy and sort of a street guy, and likable too, but kind of puts his foot in his mouth a lot and doesn't really understand the the hierarchy of how you're supposed to deal with the tenants, and kind of gets under Josh's skin. But he needs him, so they bring him in, and then there's Charlie, who's Josh's brother-in-law that Casey Affleck plays, and Charlie's the guy who's been at the Tower for a long time also, and has a kid on the way, and he's married to Josh's sister, and very reluctant to be a part of this, and they fight all the time, but he really needs Charlie in there, because I think first of all he knows that he can trust him, and they need somebody who's knows the building. I mean, the movie sort of has to live and die on the relationships of the people in it, because there've been so many heist movies. It's really like, what are you going to see that's different and interesting? And I think it's just getting invested in the characters and this unlikely group, and really then being able to want to go on that ride with them, and then to see what happens, and it goes wrong, and there's always something that goes wrong in a heist movie, and so it's really fun in this one because I think it goes in a direction that people don't necessarily expect it to go, and we kept on wanting to just have as many complications happen as possible, and in developing the script, that's sort of what Brett and Jeff Nathanson really worked on, was really trying to figure out ways to make the actual heist different and exciting